Okay, we're doing Perek Vav of Hilchot Teshuva, and this is Rabbanit Shira Zimmerman, and this message is a part of the Amudim Teshuva tape series. Okay, so before Perek Vav, basically what we've discussed, a main part of what we've discussed with in Hilchot Teshuva is the idea that free will is a very, very basic tenet of Judaism because you need, because we get sachar ve'onesh, because there's reward and punishment, and if we don't have free will, if we don't have the choice to do something good or bad, then reward or punishment doesn't make any sense. Okay, so the Rambam feels that this is just a very, very essential part of how things work, right? That if you do a sin, then God will punish you, and it has to have been your choice to do the sin. Um, and so we've discussed that. That has been discussed basically before Perek Vav. Now in Perek Vav, he continues on this basic tenet of Judaism and starts talking a little bit about punishment, right? You might not get the punishment right away. Basically, Perek Vav is about how there are reasons that you might not think that you have free will, and there are reasons that you might not think that reward and punishment are working properly, because what if you don't get punished right away, right? You turn on the light on Shabbos, right? When you were little, I'm sure you thought that if you did that, then lightning would strike or something terrible would happen, right? But it doesn't. So what does that mean? So he's saying you might not get punished right away. You might not get punished in this world. You might get punished in the next world. And of course, you might decide to do tshuva, and tshuva staves off the punishment, so you don't get punished. Why else might you not believe in this concept of free will? Well, there's a whole bunch of psukim in the Torah, most notably and famously Paro, who God says he takes away his free will. God literally says, it says that he hardens the heart of Paro. Paro continues to sin, but it's not his fault. God hardened his heart. Where's Paro's free will? So the Rambam then goes into all of those different psukim, and shows how sometimes you can do something so bad, and this is what we talked about in my class earlier this morning, for those of you in my class. Sometimes you can do something so bad where the punishment for what you have done is to continue sinning. Okay, and so that's what happens to Paro. Paro starts of his own volition. He decides to sin, right? And he decides to throw all the babies in the river, and he decides all the male babies, of course. He decides, to enslave Bnei Israel. Then, and he decides not to listen to God for the first bunch of makot. Then his punishment is that God is going to use him at this point. So he either lost his free will, but he had free will, and he's just gotten himself into this situation. Okay, for our purposes today, I want to zero in on halacha bet, okay? In halacha bet, the Rambam tells us basically that you can do tshuva instead of getting punished. And he says, Kishem she'adam chote mida'ato umirtzono, just like a person sins from his desire and from basically his free will, his knowledge. He knows what he's doing. Kachu oseh tshuva mida'ato umirtzono. So too, he does tshuva also from his knowledge and from his desire and from his free will. Now, Rabbi Jacobson, in his series on Hilchot Teshuva, basically brings up the obvious question. Do we not know, what is the Rambam trying to tell us? Do we not know? Yes, we've already said there's free will, and you can sin in free will, and you can also do good in free will. What's your chiddush, the Rambam? Yes, you sin by your own free desire, whatever, and you do tshuva by your own free desire. Why does he repeat it in the exact same words? So the Rambam actually, possibly, is maybe giving us a hint into psychologically how we do tshuva, okay? Because after you do an avera a bunch of times, okay, um, the Gemara in Kiddushin even says, and here I'll read it, Damar Rav Huna, Kevan she'avar adam avera v'shanabo, once a person does an avera and then does it twice, hutralo, it's allowed to him. Then the Gemara asks the obvious question, hutralo? It's allowed? What? And so, hutralo salkadatach, ella naaset lo keheter. No, it's not actually allowed to him. It is ilu. It's like to him, it's a heter. Okay? It is like it's allowed to him. Because once you do an avera and you break that, you turned on the light on Shabbos. I remember when I was little, I was really, really scared of the dark. Really, really scared. And on Shabbos when we had the little night lights on and stuff like that, and I was scared to go to the bathroom at night. And then I started maybe waking up and going to the bathroom and accidentally bumping into the light, right? A little bit of an act. And then it just like got to be, and then I turned it on with my elbow, and then I started like it really like became a thing that I was turning on the light in the middle of the night on Shabbos because I was scared of the dark, right? So it's like it became, the lightning didn't come out of the sky, right? And then it became like it's almost allowed. And then in order to stop doing that, I had to, I didn't get over my fear of the dark, but I did start to realize like, listen, this is not an accident anymore. This is totally, totally on purpose, and I have to stop that. Then it's like, it had to become again for me something that wasn't allowed. Okay, like in order to do tshuva. So what does this have to do? Anything? Um, it's also possible that when you start, so when I was little, right, and I turned on the light, I was like, I consider myself a good person who keeps Shabbos and just convinced myself that this was some sort of accident all the time. But there's another type of sinner who starts to sin and then feel like it's too much, and it's just like, okay, this is who I am. I am a sinner. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm already there. And I just listened to this podcast on 1840. If you're familiar with the podcast, it's an interesting listen. There's this guy who spoke about his adultery, okay, and his transgressions in that area. And he said that he felt like at some point he was just like, okay, I'm not a good guy. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And I'm not a good guy. And it's kind of like too much for me to even ever be able to get out of it. Okay? And what the Rambam is saying here is, no, when you sin, how did you start sinning? You started sinning because it was your choice. You made the choice to start sinning, okay? And likewise, you can make the choice to stop sinning. And what this guy said on 1840 was also like, and I thought, oh, maybe we even like try and diagnose ourselves a little bit. It's like, oh, well, maybe it's like I'm a what's it called, like a sexaholic. He went to Sexaholics Anonymous and stuff like that. And that can even be part of this idea of like not taking responsibility. He said in his tshuva process, it was actually very important to him to say, I do not have this problem. I am not an aholic, right? I did something wrong, and I have the choice. I have the proclivity to do this and to continue doing, but I have the choice to do tshuva. It is not beyond my ability. Just like I made the choice to do an avera, so too I can make the choice to do tshuva. Rabbi Nachman says, אם אתה מאמין שיכולים לקלקל, תאמין שיכולים לתקן. There's a beautiful song by Yosef Karduner with this. And the concept here is if you believe that you can mess things up, that if you can believe that you can make a problem, also believe that you can fix that problem, right? Sometimes we feel like, yeah, sure, I can do something bad, but to try and do tshuva for it, it's like too big for me. No, if you can go down that rabbit hill, you can come back up and you can go down the other one. Okay? Final thought is what Rabbi Yehuda Amital says in his book, The Tshuva of Shabbat. He says, genuine self-examination requires plumbing the depth of evil and what leads to it, so that we can fix the causes of sin. Parshat Vayelech teaches, then my anger will burn against them on the day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say on that day, are not these evils come upon me because my God is not in my midst? And I will surely hide my face on that day for all the evils which they shall have perpetrated, and that they have turned to the other gods. The commentators ask, why is it specifically after the stage of confession and realization that God is not among us that God responds by hiding his face? So it's almost like we finally realize we did something wrong, and then God hides his face from us. Wouldn't it be the opposite? Like we realize we did something wrong, and then God's like, oh, okay, you're coming back, right? So what's the story with that? The Shemi Shmuel writes in the name of his father, the Avnei Nezer, my father, a rabbi and teacher of saintly memory, explained that they will have done teshuva only for the actual transgression that caused the distancing of the divine presence, but not for the root of sin which brought about that transgression. For a slight transgression brings in its wake a more serious transgression. In other words, it is not enough to say, because my God is not in my midst. A person has to try to uncover the root of the sin which brought about that transgression. Examination of the deeper recesses of sin and its causes is an essential part of tshuva. So what he's saying here is that, yeah, we do things wrong. There's a reason that we do things wrong, okay? Every avera that you do, there's something behind it. So when you do cheshbon nefesh, cheshbon nefesh is like looking at what I've done during the day, looking back over the year. What have I done during the year? The good, the bad. But it's not just counting up. I did this bad, I did this bad, I did this bad. Got to do better. Don't say lashon hara. Okay, fine. Don't wake up late for minyan, right? Don't miss davening. I can tell that to myself, but God's still going to hide his face, okay? Because I haven't actually done what I need to do in order to do tshuva. I have just said, yes, I am doing averas. That's a step, but it's not the whole step, because psychologically, we don't just do things stam. There's a reason that we do things. There's a reason why I'm doing an avera. There's a reason why I'm saying lashon hara. Why is that? So I have to start to think, wait a second. Do I really enjoy saying lashon hara? Like, is it that there's a tremendous joy out of this, and I'm trying to, like, in other words, to get behind it? Maybe I really enjoy listening to lashon hara. What is behind my talking like that? What type of situation causes me to talk like that? Is it when I'm in the presence of a certain person that it happens? Or all these things, we get to the root of why I am like that. And if I can can basically psychologize myself, which is not an actual word, but if we basically, instead of like cheshbon nefesh, I did this, I didn't do that, I go to a therapy session with myself. Why did I do this? Why didn't I do that? Then I will be able to really get my free will back. And I won't be doing it like an automaton. I will be making a decision. You can only make a decision when you know why you do things. And so I hope maybe we all be zoche to have very fruitful therapy sessions with ourselves and to succeed in using our free will this year to do good.